Good day, friends. Zack here with RevZilla, and welcome to another episode of Daily Rider, where we learn about bikes as we ride. Our guest today is an exalted one. BMW's R1250 RT Police Special, better known as the RTP. What we've got here is a full-size, full-zoot German sport touring machine and everything that comes along with it, and it's sprinkled with some whiz-bangs, gizmos, and doodads that help police American roads. So on today's ride, we'll talk about what makes the BMW RT a unique machine, and we'll play with some of the little tricks that the RTP has up its sleeve. And of course, we will answer the question on everyone's mind. Do you know why I pulled you over? Because it's time for a daily ride. Let's go. Okie dokie, everybody. Before we get going, a reminder, this episode of Daily Rider is brought to you by Quad Lock. Quad Lock makes mobile device chargers, cases, and mounts for all the vehicles we cover here on Daily Rider and many more. More importantly, Quad Lock supports Daily Rider, which means for every Quad Lock product you buy on RevZilla.com, Daily Rider gets a slice of it. And we contribute it to a Zack bail fund for when I actually get pulled over by a real officer of the law, maybe. Anyway, thanks to Quad Lock, as usual, for the partnership. To learn more about Quad Lock's products, click on the link in the description of this video. Okie doke. Here we go, everybody. R1250 RTP. There is a whole lot to talk about. And I'll say that I'm probably not going to be able to cover absolutely every facet of this bike, just because the bike itself is pretty complex and sophisticated, and then it's got a bunch of other stuff that I want to talk about too. At its core, a 1254cc horizontally opposed twin, otherwise known as a boxer. And this has the new shift cam technology, which was new as of 2018 or 19 or something like that in the BMW Boxers, which is variable valve timing on the intake side, which is kind of neat and basically seamless, but it makes the engine a little bit stronger, in my opinion. Otherwise, high quality stuff all around, really. Brembo calipers here, steel braided lines, nice big rotors, and a telelever front end up in there. So you can see there's, we talked about this with the GS episode. If you saw that one, there's a little A-arm that reaches out here and stabilizes the whole front end. So you can see there's one shock, and it's anti-dives. When you get on the brakes, it doesn't dive forward. Kind of a cool system. You can see the radiators in there flanking the shock. All LED lighting on the new RT, including these Clearwater lights that our friends at Long Beach BMW installed on this bike as a sort of example option. So quick tip of the cap to Long Beach BMW also for loaning us this police demo bike, which is pretty cool. As for the police accessories, you got your obvious stuff, your lights, your siren. This is the holster for the LiDAR, I'm told. And this company, FMS Accessories, makes a lot of this stuff. The bags, the holsters, the other stuff. 23-liter side bags, kind of narrow, which is cool. And yeah, instead of a passenger seat, you've got, I guess we gotta turn it on. And we'll get to the dash in a second there. You got this radio box, right? So you put your laptop here, and then when you pull over a violator, you tippy-tap on your laptop, you print off the ticket, and you send them home with something to think about. Anyway, pretty cool. The wiring harness for the bike is all different from an RT. This bike's built in Berlin, I believe, for the California Highway Patrol. It's a factory police option. It's not just something that happens after the assembly line, which is pretty neat, I think. All right, so now we can talk about the dash and fire it up. This is a 10.25-inch TFT screen, big, beautiful dash on these new BMW touring and sport touring bikes, which we'll have a chance to look at more as we go along here. And we'll fire it up. Yeah, that's that sort of nasal BMW snarl. Clip into our phone mount, and we are just about ready to rumble, everybody. This is not a gun mount, actually. This is for radio equipment, I'm told. The rifle mount would go back here, but it's not on this bike for whatever reason. And a cup holder, which I haven't used, but I should have. I should have just tried it. And a helmet lock, which is kind of nice. All right, that's probably enough talking while we're just sitting here, right? let's do some daily rider patrol. Off we go, off we go. All right, I'm excited about this one, everybody. If you couldn't tell, so let's get the specs out of the way so that we can talk about the fun switches and gizmos that this sucker's got. So, like I said, just about a 1300cc engine down there, and claimed horsepower from BMW is 136 horsepower and 105 foot-pounds of torque, which is pretty burly. And that's good because with a full 6.6 gallons of gas in the tank, that's a big fuel tank for those who are unaware, the bike tipped the daily rider scales at 700 pounds, which is not nothing. And that doesn't even have all of the, you know, police equipment on it, really. Some of it, but not all of it. With the windscreen all the way down, it's actually kind of loud for me, so I'm going to put it up a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't annoy you too much. I can still see over it right now, but I don't think the camera can because the camera's on my chin. But in general, the wind management on this bike is very good. What am I doing? I'm getting ahead of myself. Holy smokes. We're supposed to be talking about ergonomics, Zach. What does it feel like to sit on it? Pretty comfortable, believe it or not. And you should believe it, of course, because it is a $20-something thousand BMW sport touring bike. So it flipping better be comfortable, right? And it is. Nice, sporty riding position, fairly compact, actually. The bars are fairly close to the seat. And the seat is wide and plush. The foot pegs are rubber mounted. It's all very, very agreeable. So the price for RTPs is a little kind of up in the air because the base price I think is around $26,000, fully spec'd out with all the motor officer equipment, but it depends on how many options they order, so it can go up to as high as 30 or 32 grand, depending what the specific department gets on the bike. If you want to buy one for yourself, a little bit less than that. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But anyway, yeah, not a cheap bike, but pretty capable, as we'll find out once we go more than 15 miles an hour. All right, we're going to tuck in behind this extremely purple Volkswagen Jetta. And we're finally out where the BMW RT really shines, the sort of open road, where wind management is really good, weather protection is excellent. It's got this electronic windscreen that you can lower down here, you can raise it up if you want. It goes very high. We'll go all the way to the top of the range just to see how high it is. It's like almost as high as my helmet, it feels like. I find about halfway is about good for me. Pushes the air over the top of my helmet, keeps nice and quiet, pocket of air, but still allows me good visibility and that kind of thing. I will say, the one downside to the RT's fantastic weather protection is that sometimes it's just too comprehensive. And on a hot day, you just don't get any air. And I find myself standing on the pegs to kind of like get my mesh jacket to breathe, that kind of thing, which is a strange problem to have, but a problem nonetheless. BMW's other grand touring bike, the K1600, has these little like mandibles, these little aero strip things that hinge out on the side of the fairing and they dump air into the cockpit, which I think is just such a fabulous modification. But maybe it's a differentiator between the models and that's why they don't do it on the RT, but I always like that feature. Still going a little slower than we'd like to be going, but I'll point out that at this speed it's extremely good. It's very, very comfortable, and the engine's turning at a perfect RPM, and that means the pegs are smooth, the handlebars are smooth, everything is just sort of like grooving along as gently and as easily as you can possibly imagine. But lots of bikes are comfortable at 55 miles an hour. What the real question is, what happens when you go faster, like actual freeway speeds? And around this time on the RTP is when I find I'm less comfortable. 70, 75. Not because the wind protection isn't good enough, it is. Mostly it's vibes in the handlebar, which is kind of strange, right? At 70 miles an hour that you'd start feeling vibes on a bike like this, but you do. Now, it's not a huge deal. It's not wildly uncomfortable or anything like that, obviously. But I did learn in my research that RTPs, the police specials, are geared slightly lower final drive gearing than a stock RT that you would get as a consumer. Presumably for low speed maneuverability and more sort of torque at city speeds, that kind of thing. But it does affect the RTP negatively on the freeway, in my opinion, for whatever that's worth. Aside from being extremely good at this kind of riding, the RTP can tell exactly how fast people ahead are going. It's actually not that sophisticated or anything, but we'll tuck in behind this van here, and this is how an officer would match speed. You can see there's a little, I'll zoom in here, I'll get closer, you can see it. There's a little camera here, and then a number underneath, kind of grayed out. So if I hit this button, I think, record, yeah, it'll record the speed that I'm going. So I matched his speed at 64 miles an hour. Now I'm slowing down because traffic is slowing down, but the little number is still there, 64 miles an hour. Anyway, nifty little RTP feature. One of many. As you can see, there are a lot of buttons. Most of these buttons, for what it's worth, have to do with the lights and controlling which lights are on when and where they're pointed and that kind of thing. But yeah, the little record speed function is kind of a nifty little trick. We often talk about fuel mileage here, and I forgot to calculate the number yet again. I'm getting rusty. I can't remember to say price or calculate the fuel mileage before the ride. It's time to put me out to pasture. Anyway, it does have a large fuel tank, as I mentioned, 6.6 gallons. And to give you an idea of how much range it has, this trip I have 113 miles on this tank, and it's at a half tank, and it's saying I can go another 130 miles. So it's claiming almost 250, but realistically you can go more than that if you're cautious with the throttle, yeah, it depends on the riding, as I always say. But yeah, range is quite good, in part because there's a ginormo fuel tank here. I almost forgot to talk about mirrors, but I didn't, thankfully, because I got stuff to say. I don't like these mirrors. They're too small and they're too far away. It's not good. They're like down low, which is fine, I guess. They're out far enough, which is okay, but they're just, the surface is small and they're just kind of awkward, and they're far away from my face, and the surface isn't big enough, so I just can't see all that much out of them. And the worst thing about the RTP, which I'm sure you'd get used to if you were an actual officer, is that there are these light towers here. And every time I look for the mirror, I look at this thinking it's the mirror, and then I can't see anything and I have to look down, and then I think I wish the mirror was bigger and up here. So I don't like the mirrors on the RT, which is all things considered a pretty fierce criticism from yours truly. All right, we're gonna drop the old windscreen down for riding around town. We'll experiment with the RT's manners in the stop sign challenge. If you watched our CTXP episode, you know that Ari and I took part in a slow race on our respective machines. No success there. We're 0 for 1. The RT from BMW is a very agile and good bike around town for what it is, but what it is a massive motorcycle. It weighs 700 pounds and it's you know, not particularly low to the ground or anything. The seat height, I forgot to talk about seat height also. Man, I am rusty. The seat height is 31.7 inches in the low position, 32.5 inches in the high position. And so it's not a particularly low seat height, and it's a huge bike, and it works quite well, but ultimately ultimately we're 0 for 2 here in the stop sign challenge. Let's see if we can get one here. Focus up, Zach. Oh my God, I did it, but it was so ugly. I scared that person. Probably thinks I'm new to the motor officer program. I will say the RT has a lot of nice features in general, but around town, one of them being fueling, which is quite good. The other being brake feel, which is excellent. I really like BMW brakes. They're very sharp. They're responsive. I've always appreciated that about BMW. There's another footless stop. Feeling better about that kind of thing. Yeah, so in general, a very high quality machine, and that is kind of clear from the outset. And you know, as an around town bike, it's too flippin' big, but works okay considering, I guess. All right, let's 226 5.57. So 226 divided by 5.57, 40 miles to the gallon, 41, something like that. So you're going to multiply that by 6.6. Technically, range, you've got 265, 270 miles of range. All right, this traffic light's taken forever, as it often does. So let's talk about the dash a little bit here. This 10.25 inch TFT, which is controlled mostly by this menu button over here, which you can dive down into these other menus, and then this click wheel, which you shift from side to side to get across these menus, and then you can scroll with it like this. So yeah, here's where you can adjust heated grips, Bluetooth connections with the bike, the display, that kind of thing. You can also connect your phone for navigation, which I didn't really like. Bike information, coolant temp, range, battery voltage, tire pressure monitor system, trip computers, which are very comprehensive. They even suggest when you should take a break. And if you hold down on this upper menu button, you go back to the main screen. And because it's so wide and huge, you can tap over while you're in it and get little pieces of information along here. Either trip computers or navigation, if you have it running, or media, so whatever music you're listening to, that kind of thing, which is pretty nifty, I think. All things considered, it is a good dash setup. I will say it's indicative of how complicated it's become that BMW installed these buttons over here, these 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons. These are shortcut buttons to access whatever you'd like. You can set it up in the menu. I have it set up to access heated grips, maybe a trip computer, and one other thing. But basically, the shortcut buttons are useful, they're smart, but it says something, doesn't it, about how complex the menu systems and switchgear has become on modern motorcycles, that we're headed for the look of a 2008 Goldwing with Starship Enterprise buttons everywhere, because this is the shortcut to do this thing, and this is the key thing to do this thing. The menus are so deep and complicated that BMW has ironically reverted back to just buttons that you push to get to a place. At any rate, we are on Lover's Lane, where we talk about passenger accommodations, and the discussion is quick on the RTP because it's a solo seat. Officer rides alone, no booking baddies and taking him to the station on the RTP. There's a big radio box back there, of course, no passenger. Anecdotally, I can tell you that a regular BMW RT, especially with a top box on it, is an excellent passenger machine, very comfortable. So, there you have it, I suppose. This RTP's got a quick shifter, which is pretty wicked, and 100 foot-pounds of torque, which is also pretty wicked. So for a 700-pound bike, it really gets up and goes in a way that is kind of unexpected, I think. Right, as we dip into the twisty section of the Daily Rider route, we can reach down for this mode button and we can slap it into dynamic mode. There we go, dynamic. And that will stiffen up the electronic suspension pretty significantly, actually. Makes the the damping much stiffer and makes the bike feel quite a bit sportier. So I had some questions on social media about, you know, how fast is it actually, and if someone was on an S1000 RR, could they outrun an RT? Yeah, probably, you know, especially a good rider. But it is a pretty versatile bike when it comes to on-road capability, and if you want to slay through some corners on an RT, it is more than willing. It will dance down a set of curves faster than you think. So if you are someone who's planning to outrun a cop and they're on an RT, be prepared to be surprised, is what I would say. The dynamic ride mode also affects throttle response, I believe. And I don't really like dynamic all that much, to be honest, because I prefer the suspension a little softer. I like road mode because it's nice and supple and soft, but the throttle's still nice and sharp and you get full power. There's also an eco mode, which I just flipped into, which is a BMW RT feature, not a police feature. But it does the typical thing, right, where when you add throttle, you can see the eco bar goes down. When you reduce throttle, it goes up. So this is how you would maximize your 6.6 gallons of gas, I guess. And as far as I can tell, the throttle map is rain mode-esque. So it's dumbed down a little bit. It's a little more gentle, which is fine if that's what you're into, but I'm a road mode guy myself. I like leaving it in road mode. I get kind of distracted by the eco meter. Plus, I like having all that punch on tap whenever I want it. Green light, yet another green light. I'm itching for a red light just to test these brakes. I got stuff to say about them. There we go, there's our red light. Here we go, jamming on the brakes. And the RT comes to a stop as it accelerates, which is much faster than you'd expect for a bike this size. The brakes are very sharp and very good and very linked, actually. I believe the RT is linked front to back, so when you grab the front brake, you get a little bit of rear brake as well. And when you use the rear brake, you get a little bit of front brake. And that's one of the things, according to BMW, that allows for radar cruise control to be an option on the RT and RTP, for that matter. Although this model does not have it installed. Last thing I'll say, linked brakes used to be kind of scary. I remember riding Kawasaki Concourse 1400, I think, way back when, and yeah, maybe 10 years ago, and the linked brakes were kind of freaky, man. They didn't link all that well, and they scared me a little bit. But BMW linked brakes in this day and age anyway are quite good in my opinion. All right, one more red light. We already talked about the dash, we already talked about the brakes. What else can we talk about? There are speakers, which I don't care about. Oh, there's stealth mode. Check this out. So you're sitting there, maybe the engine's off, or maybe it's on, whatever, and you want to be sneaky because you want to catch that violator. You can press this button, and poof, all the lights are off. No dash, no lights, nothing. Stealth mode. Pretty cool, right? Whatever. Maybe it's just sort of a 7-year-old inside me. It's like, whoa, cool! I can turn off all the lights. Yeah, what else? What else? Any other little sort of ride mode? Talked about that. Oop. Time to go. Lights and siren. We're not supposed to talk about that. Or we're not supposed to use it anyway. Right, as we peel off to the left here. A good summary of the BMW RT is that it's been around for a very long time and it's extremely refined. Extremely. I'm disappointed in the mirrors. And on the police edition anyway, I'm a little disappointed in the gear ratios. But even the stock bike, I feel like 5th and 6th could be really kind of overdrive gears and serve the bike a little bit better. But in general, it's just one of those things that, I don't know, it's like a cheesesteak in Philadelphia or I can't think of another analogy. Maybe that's not even a good one. But BMW's just been doing this for such a long time. The bike's been around for so long that it's just good. It's very good. How good is it? You want to know if you take it down a dirt road. Well, good question. Let's find out, shall we? So off we go down the dirt track. You know, it's actually not bad. The suspension is very supple on this bike in road mode. It's very nice, I think. You can't get too rowdy. This is better than I thought it would be, actually. I thought it was going to be a lot sketchier, but it's actually it's doing okay here. I don't know. Here's some nasty bumps. Yeah, it's just like the suspensions. I don't know, it's related to a GS. What can I say? As for a jump, it was a little scary. A little scary. Can an RT police special do a wheelie? Yeah, certainly. Can I do a wheelie on it? We'll see. It would definitely do a wheelie if you could turn TC off. But, you know, TC off isn't really what the RT is about. Or I'm too stupid to figure it out. All right, we can go for a back in here. Whoa, got a little more, out of it than I thought we would. The bike is very prepared to deal with such buffoonery. What with the linked brakes, what with the ABS, what with the, I think there's even like a deceleration mitigation thing where it mitigates real slip, that kind of thing. Anyway, yeah. There's potentially more than one reason that you don't see cops backing it in everywhere, but one of the reasons could be that the RT doesn't really like it. Plus, it's unprofessional, which is kind of my thing, but not for officers of the law. Okie dokie, everybody, we have arrived to RevZilla West, and it's time for a U-turn challenge. Is there enough space? No. Dagnammit. I was looking forward to this because I feel like we'd have had a good run at it. U-turns are pretty good on this bike, so let's line up by this Camry here along this line, and we're gonna go for the U-turn. I'm getting good at my U-turns now, huh? On account of that police episode. But that's 2 parking spaces, kids, I think. Is it? Yeah, easily. The RT is amazingly good at U-turns. So, could you outrun an officer on S1000RR on a country road? Maybe. Could you outrun one on a parking lot, in a parking lot? Probably not. That's my guess. All right, let's take a listen to this big old BMW twin, which I think has a nice snarl to it. I think it sounds cool. Yeah, and then let's turn these on just to let the RTP bask in all its glory. Look at it go, flashing its lights, fluffing out its feathers, peacocking for us. Cool bike, very cool bike, cool experience to try a modern police edition, and a good follow-up to that CTXP episode, which hopefully by now you have watched, and if not, my goodness gracious, do that after you finish this episode. All right, that's probably enough of that. I can pop the phone off the mount. Instagram questions, everybody. First question is from Trezes34, who asks, historically, what have been the maintenance costs on these machines, and should someone thinking about buying a used one pull the trigger? Yeah, so I did some research here, and they're pretty solid bikes. The guy at the dealership who loaned me this bike, who's in charge of a lot of the sort of sales and sort of, you know, account management for all the police departments and their BMW RTs. Granted, he works for BMW, so you can take this with a grain of salt, but he did point out that there are a couple bikes on the road still from 2008, I think he said, or 2010, and he has seen bikes with 200 or 300,000 miles on them, which is pretty impressive. He did say eventually, usually drive line components will wear out first. Drive, like U-joint, I think he said, something to do with the drive shaft and then the rear end assembly. And the one that we got for police rodeo there, that CTXP episode, has 80,000 miles on it, and frankly, they've been rough miles. It's a little loose in some places, but foundationally pretty solid as far as I could tell, especially considering how much we bought it for. So yeah, I've known a couple people that have bought them used and been fairly happy with them, and that was what my reporting dug up. Hopefully that helps. Next question is from NCE 1968, who asks the most obvious question: if it were a donut, what kind of donut would it be? I got a lot of questions about what type of donut this bike would be, so I feel like I should address it. It's fancy, right? Expensive, flagship. You know, has lots of features, but it's also a classic. You sort of see them everywhere. So I think maple bacon. I think it's a sort of a classic puff donut, maple glaze, sprinkle of bacon. Make all the jokes you want to about bacon being involved. I'm not going to go there. The point is, it's a decadent, fancy, high-end donut. This R1250 RT, but ubiquitous in some ways, because so there you go. There's my answer. Next comment / question is from Kresnas 113, who says Indonesian police opted for BMW R1200 GS for police bikes. So how does this RT compared to the GS? Keep in mind, we do have some gold wings as police bikes also. So that's a fun little piece of information. Indonesian police have gold wings sometimes. How does this RT compare to the GS? So it's interesting, right? I don't think I would ever... The RT is a majestic bike. It is functionally fantastic and works really well. I just don't think I would ever actually get one because the GS exists, and the GS is another big touring bike, ultimately. But it has the capability to, you know, rattle down a creek bed if you want to, tip it over, pick it up. You won't really care as much, less body work. The wind protection maybe isn't quite as good. It has, you know, there's some features the GS does not have that an RT does, but for me, a GS really does almost everything that an RT does and then some. So I think the Indonesian police opting for a GS is a great call, and I think American police departments should do the same, frankly. But we'll see how long it takes to get there. I do know there's a police department in California, in Los Angeles, that uses Africa Twin. They have a couple Africa Twin police bikes, which is pretty cool. But in general, ATV bikes aren't usually the pick. But I think they could be. Good point there, Kresnas. Next question is from Basic Beluga, who asks, what's the difference between something like this and a Harley police bike? Which one do you think can do policing better? Well, I'll refer you to that CTXP episode yet again. You can watch Ari and I back and forth, him on a Harley, me on a BMW. And I think what we learned from the police there in Texas and New Mexico, Mississippi, Louisiana, there were police officers there from all over, and they seem to think, the consensus, I believe, was that the RT has a higher threshold of capability for policing. The Harley just has some things that it does better. It's lower. It seemed better at the kind of like really slow speed stuff, easier to adapt to also. That seemed to be kind of what we took from that. Harley was a little easier to get used to and find its limits, but ultimately the BMW's limits were higher. So I think the BMW would be my choice. And there do seem to be an increasing number of police departments, we learned, that are going for the metric bikes, as they call them, instead of Harleys. But yeah, ultimately it comes down to what the police force does, wants, and luckily that's not my decision to make. All right, last question is another analogy one I couldn't resist. I just think it's a great question. Is from Buckets3988, who asks, what Disney villain does it most closely identify with? This is a great question. I looked up the Disney villains. I did some research, and the first thing that came to mind, and the one that I'm going to go with, feel free to disagree in the comments if you like, but Ursula from Little Mermaid. Doesn't it have kind of an Ursula look to it? It's big, it's sort of wide and kind of a little bit angry looking, and I don't know. I feel like it's got a touch of magic about it, but also undeniably capable, which Ursula proved to be as well. But yeah, anyway, from me, from Ursula, thanks so much for riding along. Let's put this sucker on the Daily Rider leaderboard. Stick with me, and I'll let you go very soon, promise.
Hey everybody, here we are inside RevZilla West. We've got the RT on the board. I pulled out the mighty RT from Texas, from my very steed, which we still have around, which is another very friendly, I promise, reminder to check out that episode of CTXP if and when you get a chance. Maybe after you finish this video. You don't have anything to do, right? That's what I thought. Okay, we've got the R1250 RT Police on the Daily Rider leaderboard in the hopper. It's got a $sign next to it because this is a pricey baby, is it not? I think so. As for where it lands, all the top bikes on the leaderboard, as a reminder, you got Aprilia Touareg 660, Suzuki Gixxis 1000 GT Plus, Harley Pan America, Triumph Tiger Sport 660, MV Agusta Turismo Veloce. So the Gixxis 1000 GT Plus, kind of an apples to apples with the RT, sort of. A lot cheaper, a little bit less fancy, but similar. The Pan America Touareg Tiger Sport 660 are the sort of like more upright and adventurous models of varying front wheel size. And the MV Agusta as well, kind of think of it. The real apples to oranges is the Tiger Sport 660. Is an RTP better? Yeah, more range, more comfort, more features, more storage. It's more expensive, but is it just better? Kind of. I'm struggling. So okay, Pan America, maybe I can figure this out. Because if it falls, whatever side of the Pan America it falls on, we'll go with that maybe. Pan America is also big, complex, sophisticated, blah, blah, blah. It's more capable than an RT, sure. So I'm gonna pick up the magnet and we're gonna make a decision here. Would I take an RT instead of a Pan America? Oh boy, that's a dead heat. I love that you can take a Pan Am off-road and smash it over stuff. RT wasn't bad off-road. I say the Pan America gets the nod because, come on, because of the versatility. I like the versatility. I like the off-road ability, come on. I like the off-road ability of the Pan America, which is limited, I will admit, but not as limited as an RT or RTP for that matter. My magnet's sorted out here. So that's where it's gonna go. It's gonna go under the Pan America. It's gonna go over a Triumph Sport 660, although I might be more likely to recommend a Triumph Sport 660, a Tiger Sport 660 on a consistent basis. But it's a better bike. It's more comfortable, more range, more capable, more expensive. But you do get more. As for where it falls on the historical leaderboard here, I don't know. Above a Street Triple, nope. Above a V-Strom 1050, below the Street Triple R. There, I made the decision. We're good here. All right. Well, thank you for sticking around for yet another Daily Rider. I do appreciate it. Had a lot of fun with that and had a lot of fun with your questions, with the experience of riding a police bike around. And again, if you haven't seen the CTXP episode yet, now's your chance. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Hope you learned something. Hope you had fun. Hope to see you next time on Daily Rider. Peace.
Right, green light sometime soon here. We got it in dynamic mode. We are ready to launch and take off and show the world what. Oh, there's a police officer right there. I probably shouldn't get too excited.